Laciak with your host, A.X.E.L.
Keeping you on the go, but I know I can't live without my radio.
Jesus.
A.X.E.L Radio, the next phase of the Industrial Revolution. Brought to you by Exquisite Underground Media. From East Russia to the boggy mid-Atlantic of the USA. We're taking over.
Екатерина, А.X.E.L так сильно тебя любит, что когда видит твою улыбку, каждый объект Вселенной становится идеальным творением. Я тебя люблю. Екатерина, А.X.E.L так сильно тебя любит, что когда видит твою улыбку, каждый объект Вселенной становится идеальным творением. Я тебя люблю.
said directly.
Gentlemen, this week is quite possibly the most anticipated episode to date, due to a double dose of stupendous which A.X.E.L has listed in the all-time fave category since the 1990s. Never has A.X.E.L had two guests on the same show, where not only has he owned several pieces of their work, but several t-shirts from both as well. Straight out of Chicago, Illinois, A.X.E.L Radio proudly presents Rick Laciak of RAS DVA Records, one of the hands-down coolest record labels in the history of recorded sound. Also on this episode, from one of the greatest industry lands ever, who even spent some time on the legendary Soft Omag label, straight out of the Lone Star State. A.X.E.L Radio proudly presents Gary Dossett of Mentallo and the Fixer. What you are about to hear is indeed the best live musical broadcast to go down on this first day of the Sochi Olympics. So take your protein pills, put your helmet on, and feel free to chill out like the Jamaican bobsled team, because you're about to experience greatness. So now, without further ado, here's Gary Dossett and Rick Laciak on the next phase of the Industrial Revolution with your host.
Does this proposition entail my dressing up as Little Bo Peep?
A.X.E.L.
That was Lightyear by Mentallo and the Fixer, and if you missed it, I'm going to do it again at the close of the show. Listen here, nothing can stop or interfere. We started it with an awesome track from Music from the Ether called Becoming the Candlelight, Defining Moment. Totally awesome and perfect song for this. And executive producer credit on episode 45 goes to the Morales family representing the Ukraine South Bronx down in Hampton Roads, Virginia. Today is a very special episode. In fact, a true defining moment in the next phase of the Industrial Revolution. Rick from RAS DVA Records, who worked with Zothomag Records back in the day, and Gary from Mentallo and the Fixer, who signed to Zothomag back in the day. Perhaps the most legendary industrial label ever, and Rick and Gary have been working together quite frequently in the last 2 decades. And on behalf of Exquisite Underground Media, I would like to say it's an honor to have you both on my show together. This is stupendously awesome.
It's an honor here.
Now,
good to be here.
Now, Rick, starting with you, tell us how you initially got into music as a fan, and from there into the goth industrial genre, with actual involvement in it.
Sure. I'd like to say thank you for having us both on together.
You're very welcome.
It's basically, I started out as a fan of the music. I have Tom Crawford of WNSC Radio in Milwaukee that thanks for turning me on to Leather Strip, who works courses on Zothomag.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, I was the DJ in the early 90s at a college radio station, and went to record stores searching for electronic music, industrial music, because I had this incredible desire to have it, listen to it, and that turned into writing for Industrial Nation magazine, put out by Paul Valerio.
Right.
It was in Chicago. Then he moved to Iowa City, and then the next thing you know, I'm the fan club for Leather Strip, and then I get in contact with Paulo XLC, famous DJ. Also, he owned and started Zothomag Records, and I worked for them for about 2 months in Germany, and then through all that, I got set up with an interview with Gary and Dwayne from Mentallo and the Fixer for Industrial Nation, and on the phone we just hit it off. We became fast friends, and it stuck over the years. We've collaborated on various projects,
right?
Compilations, mixing, mastering, and actually trying to put out a side project together, which didn't quite work out, but it's out there. Some songs are still out there. And then RAS DVA happened because I learned that Gary had unreleased material that wasn't properly released on CD, just cassettes. Benestri stuff with their vocalist Rich Mendez, and I said this music is too good to not be released.
Exactly.
So I literally started the record label to put Benestri out. That was the main reason. I was going to put out a compilation of Leather Strip songs, which actually did happen, but it was too far down the road, and you want things now, and that's what I went for. And that's basically how RAS DVA got started.
Tell us a little bit about your experience as a radio DJ.
As a radio DJ, it was. I think it was the best time of my life because, I got to, I don't know how it is at your current station or any other station in America or the world, at this station, you basically were the engineer, the producer, and the talent all at the same time.
Right.
You picked out your playlist for the 3-hour, show you had each week, and you went for it. You had to do FCC standard. Every hour you do your station ID and all that stuff to be legal. You watch out for the no-air songs with the words that you can't have broadcast and whatnot. But you were basically, the power at beat for those 3 hours. You controlled those airwaves. Right.
Yeah, you were more like Gary Newman, where you played every instrument. And even though I choreograph my entire show, I'm more like Jay-Z because I got people in the background making the beats for me. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Gary.
I don't know what.
Oh no, go ahead and finish.
No, I was going to say, I don't know what's better if they throw you in and say you do everything, because then how you're doing it, you can literally focus on the music.
Well, if somebody told me that I had to do other things, I could probably figure it out too. But it's different. Everybody's everything everywhere is everybody has their own experience. You know what I mean?
Right.
And Gary, tell us about how you initially got involved in recording music. Early projects such as Benestri, which definitely came before Mentallo and the Fixer.
Well, as a kid, my brother and I, I used to play drums, and, Dwayne used to play guitar, and I don't know, we just we could never find anybody to play, music with, and none who are dedicated, and, this is like in the early 80s,
You know, I was still like in early high school, like I must have been in 9th grade or something. You know, I could have been like 13. I'm like, you know,
right.
Well, let's get a drum machine and a keyboard. You know, let's do what Depeche Mode is doing, you know, or Soft Cell. You know, why can't we go that way? We don't have to rely on anybody after that.
Right.
You know? And, you know, we grew up listening to, you know, everything from prog rock to, you know, early new wave, like early Devo and early, you know, Blondie and B-52s and Ramones, early The Cars, Suicide. You know, just, you know...
Cabaret Voltaire even, right?
Right, and that came later, you know, Cabaret Voltaire, Coil, you know, it ran the whole gambit of things, you know, Neubauten, you know, you know, some of it you definitely have to be in a mood to listen to, but it was there for the listening. You know, even if it was just to freak out your friends, you know, you know, or piss off mom and dad.
Dude, it's like being at the traffic light back in like the 1980s with the Antichrist. You know, like Ministry playing. Yeah, I feel you. That, and I did that with Electric Hellfire Club too.
I got a lot of that. Turn that devil music off. Who's playing devil music?
Tell us a little how Mentallo and the Fixer got started as a band.
Well, you know, Catastrophe sort of broke up, you know, for a number of reasons. Dwayne, you know, ended up moving to Austin, you know, and I eventually tagged along, and, you know, we were all going in different areas at the time, you know. Rich was too, you know, and it was weird, you know. I had worked on Mentallo stuff when I lived in San Antonio, like a full album's worth, which was no rest for the wicked. And when I moved up with Dwayne, you know, initially I didn't have a job at first, and I was really isolated. I didn't know anybody up here, so I really never left the house that we were renting.
I feel you.
And that's when I turned out, you know, much of what is Revelations 23. You know, just out of, you know, I was going through a number of emotions from, like, homesickness. You know, I never really wanted to leave my hometown to begin with. And I'm shoved into this new city, which I find fascinating at the same time, because, you know, the underground is very prominent here and acceptable, you know. And San Antonio, you know, it was just it's a whole different feel as the city. But, you know, I just had this mix of emotions, and, you know, there were a lot of personal things going on, you know, and just my reflections of the world, you know, being isolated, you know, and things came out really well, though.
I mean, Texas is a lot bigger, like Virginia, that you think moving from Norfolk to Richmond, that's nothing. Texas is so big. San Antonio to Austin is like moving across several states in some cases, depending on what part of the country you're talking about.
It takes a whole, 12 hours just to cross the state. But, I mean, no.
I've done that road trip from Houston to Albuquerque through El Paso, so for sure I know it.
Yeah, it's one long drive, but, you know, it takes some time, you know. I mean, you can fit Germany inside of Texas, no problem.
Several times.
You know, so it's not like, you know, when you tour the States, it's not like, you know, you're traveling long distances, and, you know, it's a job, you know, to tour in the U.S., especially if you're doing it on your own.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely. We're going to get back to the music. You know, time for some hits from one of the greatest industrial bands of all time. You know, I've had a previous guest. You may recall Dima in Moscow, a.k.a. Ultimate Soldier. His all-time favorite bands are Novakill, a previous guest of mine from Sydney, Australia, and Mentallo and the Fixer. In the archives, Ultimate Soldier is my Thanksgiving Day episode, the only episode with the Russian national anthem in the intro since Leak Route on August 8th. This is Mentallo and the Fixer from Where Angels Fear to Tread, an album any true music connoisseur of any genre should appreciate as a masterpiece. Sacrilege by Mentallo and the Fixer on the next phase of the Industrial Revolution.
the next phase of the Industrial Revolution.
Decomposed, another great hit. Now back to a truly awesome interview in regards to everything my show is supposed to be about. And on my 42nd interview in 42 weeks, I brought it all together. And even though shows prior were enough to rule out any margin of error, you know, I told many people in 04 that I wanted, you know, Rick on my roundtable for artistic projects, so I take this very serious. This is very serious to me. Now, Rick, you produced what, in my opinion, even still after all of the Bunker Tracks releases on Alpha Matrix, is the greatest 4-CD compilation of all time.
Thank you.
Appropriately titled There's No Time. You're welcome. 4 discs of really awesome music, and you made it affordable for everyone. What inspired this project?
There were a lot of things that I was, you know, toying with in my mind, and I wanted to put out a compilation that was, you know, up to par with European stuff coming out at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I really didn't like buying, you know, compilations sight unseen, paying such a, you know, high price, and, you know, never really knowing what you're going to get. So, you know, I decided that, you know, somewhere in the label's, you know, timeline, I was going to release as much music and cut the margin as close as I can, you know, to where I just paid off, you know, the expenses of making the disc. And
right.
I had really good relationships with many bands and many label owners at that time.
Right.
And I was able to convince them to get on board, so to speak. So it was a great project. I mean, Gary and Dwayne helped a lot out on that, helping put it together.
Very cool. No, that was just absolutely awesome music. A DJ could have put that on one disc after the next and just gone into the bathroom and smoked crack in the back, and nobody would have thought that he was slacking off. It was that fucking good. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now, Gary, you know, in the same period of time, I owned your album Burnt Beyond Recognition when it was a new release in the mid-'90s, and it was truly great. There has always been a tranquil edge to Mentallo and the Fixer, yet each album seems like another exploration. What sort of things have inspired this truly artistic flow during your musical journey?
Well, I think just life in general, you know, I mean, I wasn't trying to pander to anyone, you know, I was just doing what I knew how to do, and, you know, you gotta do it for the love of it, first of all.
Of course.
And, you know, on top of that, you know, I remember, like, when we released Revelations 23, and I had sent the master dads to Tala, and he calls me up and he goes, you know, there's something wrong with the dad, and I'm like, what? You know, and back then that was like a major thing, and because there's a pop song at the end or something, and I'm like, pop song? What? I'm going through the track list, and you know, I'm thinking that was a fresh tape, you know, we wouldn't have, what kind of pop music is he talking about? And I thought about it, it was like Bleak Seclusion, it's this piano piece, and I'm like, oh, you didn't get it, man, it's like, it's the calm after the storm, dude, you know, and he's like, oh, okay, I go, yeah, you get bombarded by all this stuff, you know, and, you know, I want people to walk away with a glimmer of hope.
Right.
You know, I think that's the whole thing with Mentallo. You know, there's a glimmer of hope there.
It's not just
everything
a problem
is like
and gloom doom, right?
Right, and it shouldn't be, because I'm not so, you know, dark where, you know, I'm far from that. You know, I have more facets to my life musically than just a few emotions. You know,
right?
So. You know, Mentallo expresses that, you know, it's like you don't know what you're going to get, and, you know, I feel with every album, you know, I've overcome something emotionally, or I've put it behind me in a song, or it's a photograph.
Right on.
You know?
We're going to get back to the music for a moment. I played this song in an earlier episode when I was initially setting the stage for what I was trying to create here. This is DCO by Benestrophe. On the next phase of the Industrial Revolution.
And I tell you what, there's not a whole lot you can do, because there's not much you've been able to do up to this point. Is that correct?
Correct.
So since you can't do anything by worrying and being upset, yelling and screaming, because you have two extremes. You try. Direction, you try to be nice,
X.E.L Radio, the next phase of the Industrial Revolution. Brought to you by Exquisite Underground Media. From East Russia to the Bobby Mid-Atlantic of the USA, we're taking over.
This is Parking Lot in Drug Form. Rick and Gary working together. You guys are live. Let's talk about the memories of this.
Well, my memories were, Rick came down from, I believe, it was either Wisconsin, right?
It was either Milwaukee or Chicago. I think it was Milwaukee at that time.
And, he stayed with us for a couple of weeks, and, we had this wild idea, Rick did, that, he had programmed the music and, we'd self-produce it and, record several different versions, and it was just something to, catch the moment.
Right.
Also.
Just having fun in the studio.
Sounds really cool. That nothing is real. In the background I have an actual...
real.
That's what it says. Nothing is real in this world. That's your sample?
That's an old demo.
Yeah, that's what I could do.
Yeah, that's a demo, total right onto tape demo. Before actually we got to Gary's place from studios.
And I found it to be right for the choice of it, because I have a song that says nothing is real except what you feel, and I'm really totally feeling this. And Negative Photograph, which is a special lady wants to use as background music to showcase her photo art in a professional manner. No charge to her for that at all. Tell us about when you were recording this, like, what were y'all doing then? Like, what were y'all like? How were y'all flowing with it?
It was just fun in the studio, right, Gary? We're just kind of blowing off some steam.
Yeah, I mean, we were passing time, but we were also in high spirits,
Right.
It was just like we were like young crazy bachelors almost, and, we were throwing caution to the wind and friends over, making music and having a good wild time. What can be more fun than that when you're 21?
At that time, his friend Todd had a video camera. Now, you say video camera today, you're like, no big deal. But back then, they were very rare and very expensive. And he had come over and he had recorded everything that night.
Very cool. We're doing on the time crunch now, so we're basically going to close it mainly on here. The DCO track, the Ministrophy, what were you telling me about that one?
Well, I mean, Dwayne programmed most of the song, and Rich came in and wrote lyrics, and then I mixed it. And, Rich pretty much wrote that, for me. And I always thought he was real crafty and wise with words and how he perceived the world, And he's like, I wrote this song for you, Gary, and basically it's about, your girlfriend and how vain I think she is. But it fits so aptly,
Absolutely.
And, Rich and I were real tight back in the day.
It sounds definitely like that. Do you guys got anything to close it out? We can make this thorough?
Well, Rick and I, we always remain friends first.
Absolutely.
Music is secondary,
Right. Mm-hmm. That's what's up.
Yeah, the friendship has really developed, and, there may be stuff in the future, It depends on what the scene can accept.
Absolutely, and we'll work together on that. It was definitely an honor having you guys on my show. Show everybody what it's about and what we can do. Thank you so much.
Thank
you, Axel.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
You too. This was so fun for me. Join me next week with Insane Records and a third time charm on a certain intro. Perhaps I sound calculated, having used this one twice. Mixed dog breeds in the Super Bowl and the Green Ranger. My ESP just believes in true love, and I'm not quite sure how I do it. Thanks to Rick and Gary for being my guests. And now we close it with Radiant by Mentallo and the Fixer. Are you ready? I'm out.
Underground media from East Russia to the boggy mid-Atlantic of the USA brings you A.X.E.L Radio. A.X.E.L Radio. The next phase of the Industrial Revolution on VegasAllNetRadio.com.
Екатерина, А.X.E.L так сильно тебя любит, что когда видит твою улыбку, каждый объект Вселенной становится идеальным творением. Я тебя люблю.
Views and opinions expressed on this program were those of the hosts and guests and did not necessarily reflect those of Vegas All Net Radio, its affiliates, or its parent company.